The unexpected journey. Once upon a time, there was a young man named Tom. He lived in a small village by the sea. Every day, Tom would look at the horizon, wondering what lay beyond. He was curious about the world, but he had never left his village. One day, a big ship arrived at the harbor. The ship was carrying traders from distant lands. They sold spices, silk, and stories of faraway places. Tom was fascinated. He wanted to explore those lands, but he didn't know how to get there. Tom approached one of the traders and said, "Excuse me, sir. Can you tell me about the places you've been?" The trader smiled and replied, Young man, I've been to many places, mountains taller than the clouds, deserts with no end, and cities that never sleep. But to see them, you need to be brave." "Are you brave?" Tom hesitated for a moment but then nodded. "Yes. I want to see the world. I'm ready." The trader laughed and said, "It's not as easy as you think. The journey is long, and you'll face many challenges. But if your heart is strong, you can do it." That night, Tom couldn't sleep. His mind was filled with thoughts of adventure. He knew he couldn't stay in the village forever. The next morning, he packed a small bag and walked down to the harbor. The trader's ship was still there. Tom approached the captain. "Please, take me with you," he begged. "I want to see the world." The captain looked at Tom and said, "You're too young for this journey. Go back to your village." But Tom refused to give up. He followed the captain around all day, asking, pleading, and convincing him to let him join the crew. Finally, the captain sighed, "All right, you can come. But remember, the sea is not always kind. Be prepared." Tom was thrilled. He boarded the ship with excitement and a little fear. The sails went up, and the ship started moving away from the harbor. Tom watched as his village became smaller and smaller, until it disappeared into the distance. Days passed, and Tom worked hard on the ship. He learned how to tie knots, steer the wheel, and read the stars to navigate. But one night, a huge storm hit. The waves crashed against the ship, and the wind howled like a wild animal. The ship rocked back and forth, and Tom felt terrified. "Hold on tight," shouted the captain. "Don't let go." Tom clung to the ropes, praying that the storm would pass. After hours of battling the sea, the storm finally calmed. The crew was exhausted, but the ship was safe. Tom realized how dangerous the sea could be, but he also felt proud. He had survived the storm. The next morning, the ship reached a beautiful island. The water was clear, and the sand was golden. Tom had never seen anything so amazing in his life. The captain said, "We'll stay here for a while. Explore the island, but be careful." Tom stepped onto the island with excitement. He wandered through the trees, listening to the sounds of birds and animals. Suddenly, he heard a noise, a rustling in the bushes. He turned around and saw a small, frightened animal trapped in some vines. Without thinking, Tom rushed over to help. He carefully untangled the vines and set the animal free. It was a small monkey, and it looked up at Tom with gratitude in its eyes. The monkey followed Tom back to the beach, and soon, they became friends. Tom named the monkey Leo, and together, they explored the island. They climbed trees, found hidden caves, and even discovered a waterfall. Every day was a new adventure, and Tom felt happier than he ever had in his village. But one day, the captain told Tom, "It's time to leave. We're setting sail tomorrow." Tom was sad. He didn't want to leave the island or his new friend, Leo. But he knew that his journey wasn't over yet. There were still more places to see and more adventures to have. That night, Tom sat by the fire with Leo by his side. He looked up at the stars and thought about how much he had changed. He was no longer the boy who had never left his village. He was a traveler, an adventurer, and a friend to all. The next morning, Tom said goodbye to the island and to Leo. "I'll come back someday," he promised. Leo waved his little hand, and Tom boarded the ship. As the ship sailed away, Tom smiled. He knew that this was just the beginning of his journey. The world was big, and he was ready to explore every corner of it. As Tom sailed further away from the island, his heart was full of mixed emotions. He missed his new friend, Leo, but he also felt the excitement of the unknown. The sea sparkled under the bright sun, and the wind gently pushed the ship forward. The captain came over to Tom and said, "You did well, boy. Not many would survive their first storm. You've got courage." Tom smiled, feeling proud. "Thank you, Captain. But I think it was more luck than courage." The captain laughed, slapping Tom on the back. "Luck has nothing to do with it. It's about heart, and you've got plenty of that." As the days passed, Tom became more familiar with life at sea. The crew treated him like one of their own, teaching him everything from reading maps to predicting the weather. But Tom couldn't stop thinking about what was next. Where would their next stop be? What adventures were waiting for him? One evening, as the ship sailed under a sky full of stars, Tom sat on the deck, deep in thought. What's out there, beyond the sea, he wondered aloud. The first mate, an old sailor named Jack, overheard him. "The sea is endless, lad. It holds secrets, treasures, and dangers. But more importantly, it holds freedom." Tom looked at Jack, curious. "Freedom?" "Aye," Jack nodded. "On land, we have rules, laws, and limits. But out here, the only rule is survival. And the only limit? That's your courage, boy. It's your courage that decides how far you'll go." Those words stayed with Tom. As the ship continued its journey, Tom's desire to explore only grew stronger. He wanted to see every corner of the world, discover new lands, meet new people, and face new challenges. But he knew the journey wouldn't be easy. One afternoon, the crew spotted land on the horizon. "Land ho!" shouted the lookout from the crow's nest. The ship slowly approached the shore of a bustling city. It was unlike anything Tom had ever seen. The port was crowded with ships from all over the world, and the streets were filled with people speaking different languages and wearing colorful clothes. The captain turned to Tom. "Welcome to Seafront City, lad. This place is full of surprises, both good and bad. Stay close, and keep your eyes open." Tom stepped onto the dock, feeling a rush of excitement. The sounds, the smells, the colors, everything was new and thrilling. He followed the captain and the crew as they made their way through the market, where vendors sold exotic fruits, spices, and jewelry. Tom's eyes widened as he took it all in. Suddenly, he heard a voice calling out to him. "Hey, you there. Young man." Tom turned to see an old woman sitting behind a table filled with strange objects, maps, compasses, and bottles of mysterious liquids. "Come here," she beckoned. "I've got something special for you." Curious, Tom walked over to her table. "What is it?" The old woman smiled and handed him a small, weathered map. "This," she whispered, "is no ordinary map. It leads to a place far beyond the sea, a place no one has ever seen." Tom's heart raced as he looked at the map. It was covered in strange symbols and markings. "What place?" he asked, unable to hide his curiosity. The old woman leaned in closer. "A place where your courage will be tested."